And good morning, everybody, YouTube. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you had a good week. Hope you are going to have a better weekend. Sit here and grab a cup of coffee real quick. We'll see what the rundown is from this week. I don't know, it wasn't adventurous, fortunately, so nice and easy. So what's going on? We're going to start out with the weather here. Remember, we take it about an hour, so we're not going to rush anything. Bring up any topics out there in the side chat. But for most of the quarter of the country, it looks like it's going to be snow and wind and rain and cold. North of Atlanta, etc. Looking kind of cold up there, at least for the next couple days. And here's a better representation of right now. You're looking a little snowy out there. Upper Midwest all the way out, Midwest, everywhere. Everybody south is gonna looking pretty clear. I know Robert Aguirre's yesterday had a video out saying that it's had a cold front go through, and then he went fishing in shorts and a t-shirt. that was funny. uh, um, Down in Florida is a little different than the rest of the country. It's got its own scale of cold. Hey, out in the side chat, got some people filtering in. Daniel got as my judge straight up. Ohio's cold, huh? Right? Yeah, it looks like you're gonna have some snow to go with that cold too. Walker Outdoors is with us. Good morning. And southern Illinois doesn't look like it's going to be quite as bad as the rest of Illinois, but there's definitely some snow potential out there. Mr. M. Long, 5151. Kentucky's getting some snow and cold. Yep. Barry Wood, how you doing from the Pacific Northwest, but the dry part of the Pacific Northwest, right? As it looks like the showers have eased off in the Seattle area, Vancouver Island, etc. But let's look at the forecast. We know what it's doing right now. All your Super Bowl plans is the headline. So if you have Super Bowl plans, don't go to Minneapolis. A lot of snow up in that area, it looks like. Yeah, like we're saying, a sizable swath of the nation will have some winter, it looks like. So be prepared. Get your bread and milk for everybody that lives pretty much south of Cincinnati. That's the standard winter storm operating procedure. All the Dakotas, all that area. I think if you're south of the I-70, you might get out unscathed. And I think as soon as the snow goes through, it's supposed to get really cold. But you can see snow where snow belongs, snow being where it's needed and used to getting snow. Nothing unusual, doesn't look like. The Saint, good morning. You get gas too? Well, yeah, getting gas. You got to fill up, right? 24-hour storm, make sure you fill up. but it's good practice to have above a half a tank. It's nothing wrong with that. That's just, you never know, especially in winter, if you're somewhere where it does get a lot of winter, you get snowed in on the interstate. Good morning, Walter Davis. Thanks for joining us. We're doing a rundown of some of the weather situation throughout the upper Midwest, cold and snow. And seems to be checking out with what we're getting reports in the side chat as well. So if you have outdoor plans in those areas, it might be a little tough to get any work accomplished. So it does look like it'll be a nice weekend for snowmobilers, skiers, snowshoers, snowman builders. All those types will have a good weekend, and probably Monday as well. So be a good time going into Monday. Be exhausted from all the snow digging in those areas. But let's roll on out. Had a lot happening this week. I'm going to see if I can find the links I wrote down here because things rotate so quick, but there was some stuff popping up. Obviously, the memo, and the flu. The Super Bowl has got the flu, I guess, but the memo has dominated the news. We had a good chat. There's been several good chats about the memo the last couple of days. I'm not going to beat that to death, but we'll see what comes out of it. I wouldn't say expectations are high. I wouldn't say. But the flu has definitely been picking up. We talked about that a couple times this week. Surge in hospitals. Hospitals having problems seeing patients because their emergency rooms are overflowed. And then there was the universal vaccine story about they've claimed to have developed a universal vaccine. And that's the big push now, and be on the lookout for that because they're going to trying to be telling you how great this is and how you won't get sick and et cetera, et cetera. So being ready for that fight as you go forward. But I guess everybody's sick at where you get a bunch of people together and inside in the middle of Minnesota. I guess it's easy to spread the flu. Yeah, Walter, that's a good point. You need a big public outcry for the memo to be useful, but the public is distracted. I raised the concern the other day about the memo getting released before Super Bowl weekend on the Friday. He could have released it Thursday, had more time to get discussion in the public and get that more information, more discussion out to the public. Coming out on Friday as it did, it kind of only gave it like 6 hours in the news cycle, and it's probably going to fade fairly fast. You know what I'm saying? I'm not confident that it's going to do anything as far as, like I said, the biggest message in my video yesterday, you should have no faith in the FBI. None. Zero. I don't care if you know somebody in the FBI or not. And FISA courts have to go. You can't have secret courts in a free country. That kind of message got pushed when they first established them, but people didn't listen. Now will people listen? I doubt it. But now it just allows one side to use the tools against the other side whenever they see fit. That's going to continue. But get the ones that you can convince to get on board, but I don't think the public as in mass at large, it's not going to have an effect, I don't think. So we did have the economic news yesterday. If you missed it, the Wall Street, all the Dow Jones Industrial all got crushed yesterday as we had bond rates go up. Jobless numbers came in, all this good stuff here in the center of the Drudge, all this good news. But jobs were up, wages were up, and then inflation was a concern, as well as the bond market went up and the Dow just got hammered. And it was interesting. I commented on it yesterday. If you look at some of the charts, that it happened almost the exact same time the memo was released. No, I don't know. It wasn't. How can that be a coincidence? If I can find the link to that again, you can kind of see it. But Bitcoin, the markets, commodities, gold and silver, when the memo came out, they all reversed the direction they were going. If they were going up, they popped down. If they were going down, they popped up. It didn't hold for all of them, but it was interesting that either everybody was distracted during the memo and was paying attention as computers were running it, or some effect thereof. But I wouldn't call it standard for everything to switch like that on some what they knew was coming. When it wasn't necessarily wouldn't affect the economy. It's, past news. It's not going to affect decision making moving forward necessarily. Kind of interesting. It wasn't foreign policy, which usually affects the market quite a bit. So if you have a 401k retirement account or something out there, it's a little bit less than it was last week. They estimate that the value of the Dow went down $1 trillion over the week. So that would definitely affect anything you had in there, forced or otherwise. They pulled their money to bet the Super Bowl. That's probably a good assumption. I don't know what the odds are, but I don't think anybody would not be a safe bet. You never know what kind of shenanigans they're going to pull. We know who the refs are going for. But yeah, the Dow dropped 665.75 points. The headline that's always been passed around is 666, obviously the implications, but the official number was 665.75, just to dissuade anybody from the Illuminati controlling the Dow Jones Industrial Average or whatever other numerology you want to bring out. But it's a significant amount in one day and quite a bit for the week as well. And yeah, Walter, percentage-wise, is it significant? Yeah, it's not as much as what used to be classified as a big drop. But it was surprising in the nature that it came up with all that good news that was going on about jobs and other things. It was down for the week overall, so it was more than just a 600 points total for the week. Let me see if I can find the percentage total for the week. They mentioned, but really everybody should be ready for a good 8,000-9,000 point drop because it really needs it. Everything's overvalued. So in the midst of job reports going up and wages going up, the market just got hammered like that is kind of not the way it usually works. But the bond market and the interest rates is really what was driving it. And let me pull up another article. Hey, Quasar, what's going on? You getting some of this snow and mess that they're seeing out there in the Midwest, etc., even Illinois? Did anybody have their funds manager, IRA funds manager, call them if you have one? I don't think most of us have one, but hey, you might be well enough off to have somebody that manages your money for you. Apple reported better than expected quarterly results, but the stock fell 4.4%. That doesn't, I don't know if that makes sense either. But anyway, a lot of things aren't making sense right now. It was funny watching the news ticker. It was going 300 and then 400. And you look at like 5 minutes later, it was at 500. It was quick how fast it dropped like that. I'll show you where I kind of saw some of this. Pull this over here. There's a website called traderschoice.net where they display the different markets real time. And it kind of gave you an image as this pulls up here. And everything's closed right now. So for the most part, I'm pretty sure. So this will be kind of a static view, but just to give you an idea. The snow was north of you, Quasar? So M. Long says Martin Armstrong predicted the drop to the day. Okay, I'm not familiar with Martin Armstrong. That'd be interesting to see. Says stocks, interest rates going to go up both at the same time. That's pretty counterintuitive, but I guess, if the stock market adjusts a little bit, then it can go up as interest rates rise. But really, interest rates are the big counter to inflation but interest rates also affect the stock market because people start putting their money in other places other than the stock market when interest rates get so high because you have guarantees. So this is the screen I was looking at, kind of, and you see the bond market over here on the top right. And you can see this, where was it? Yesterday, it was right in here in this area when it popped up, right when that news happened. And there's the Bitcoin chart, silver and gold and everything else. But it was funny. Everything had a reversal right as that was happening. You can zoom in on these. So that's a kind of a cool view if you're ever tracking anything. It's traderschoice.net. Something to check out if you're into such things. Have any sort of interest in buying commodities or bonds or Bitcoin or I don't know, whatever. It was kind of a cool view to have yesterday when everything was falling like a rock. Put it that way. Half of Bitcoin's value vanished this last week because of it's continuing to get beat up. I mean, other than not having any real value, I don't know why it's getting beat up. Other than all the investors are like, okay, I'm out of here. I made enough money. That's the only thing I can figure. The It was down below 8,000 briefly this week, and then it was at what 20,000 a couple weeks ago. It was at 8.5 here. It says, whoa, this is Wall Street Journal. And that went for all cryptocurrencies. So if you know somebody that's involved, you might want to ask them if they got out when it was at the high, if they made any money. So it was at 19,783 in December. And it closed yesterday at 8,524. So maybe if you're looking at getting in, this might be a good place to get in if you feel like it's going to go up. I don't know why it would go up, but it still hinges on the principle. I think that it has to be used as a currency. It has to start getting passed around. It can't just sit in a coin-based market of investors, because investors are just going to do this. They're going to pump it up, drop it, pump it up, drop it. That's all that's going to continue to happen until it actually gets used more frequently. That's all I would say. It would be interesting to see an article or a chart on in dollars. They have estimates on how often dollars change hands, and that tells you the throughput of money and how and that gives it the speed of the economy. Basically, what's Bitcoin's rate of movement, I guess, would be interesting to see. I've never seen anybody talk about it, but how often does it change hands? The more frequently it changes hands, the more interest in it, etc. I would think the value would go up, but just a thought, because Bitcoin is still kind of a big deal. And I know I have friends who would like the value to go back up. Maybe if people are putting their tax returns into it once they get those back. Somebody had lots of Bitcoin, got scammed there, Quasar. Wouldn't be a good day for them, huh? So Janet Yellen is out as the Fed chair as of today. She will be moving on, and we get a new guy on Monday who inherits this conflicting market. Will be interesting to see how he handles that. Or does he get blamed for what comes afterwards and has no chance to respond to it? Setting him up for the fall, potentially. You never really know. So on the news front, I want to hit a couple other things. Secession always being a popular topic around here. There is a story out of France. There is a Corsican independence movement who is about ready to go back to guns over lack of recognition from France. So similar to the Catalonian movement. If I can go back and figure out how far back this week it was. So independence and secession movements are spreading, I would say. People are tired of central government in a lot of ways. Self-determination, or at least local control, is big. I think it was a British article. I'm having a hard time finding the link, but I kind of gave you the summary there. It was briefly on Drudge. the other day, but it goes along with all the other secession movements in Europe in particular that undermines the EU and their economic power. There it is. This is Reuters article. So the politicians that the French wanted to talk to about the Corsican independence, or at least autonomy, the French sat down with the politicians and they're telling them we're not going to do anything. And the politicians are like, well, you're going to get the guys with the guns if you don't deal with us. That's kind of the way I'm reading this. Because Corsica had a big violence problem back 20, 30 years ago. A lot of violence and stuff. So it's an interesting article. This is at Reuters. Let me go back to the title if anybody wants to look this up. It's an interview talk of risk or violence. Corsican nationalists tell Macron. I think that's how you say that. I'm not good with French words because I don't really like the French. So, hey, good morning, Jet M. How you doing? Hey, Walter. Yeah, the Basque. Yeah, there's several different independence movements in Europe spread about. Catalonia, the Basque, this Corsican. There's one in the Flemish. Obviously, there's the Scottish issue, the Brexit out of the EU. Lots of different things interwoven into some of that. But when you start throwing out there that, hey, this is, if you're not going to talk to me, you're going to get the guys with the guns, is not a threat. It's a promise. It sounds like, because the politicians like, I can't control them if you're not going to listen to me, or at least negotiate. They want some negotiations of some sort. And if they expect it would be far more widespread because the group of independence-seeking people is much larger than it was in the 80s when it was a minority, a much smaller minority, violent minority, and now that group has grown in influence and the agenda or the principle of independence and secession, and now that they could get a lot more problems as the message being delivered there. So that is very interesting. And to go along with Europe while we're over there, today's sign of the apocalypse, and this is for all you Irishmen, Irish heritage people, everything else. This is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. This is out of the UK. St. Patrick's Day crackdown. The Irish flag will be banned at the St. Patrick's Day parade in case it offends people. This is, yeah, really the most bizarre thing I've definitely seen today. Let's get these British off here. This is in Strab. See here, I'm not good with Irish or English words either, I guess. Strabane, Northern Ireland this year. It sits on the border of Northern Ireland and the unified Ireland, but the flag is going to be banned, it says. As well as the flags relating to Northern Ireland and Britain are going to be banned from the St. Patrick's Day parade. I mean, that's, oh goodness, why even have the parade? What are you there for? Isn't St. Patrick's Day all about Irish unification, Irish nationalism, if you will, for nothing else, in lack of a better word? So I'm assuming this city is probably split in half. It's probably half in Northern Ireland, half in Ireland. So it's probably felt a lot of the Civil War over the years. Things I didn't know: the white of the flag represents peace between the island's two largest political and religious communities. Green and white. What does green and white stand for? I guess the green stands for the country, the soil, Ireland. The green. What does the orange stand for? I don't know. Maybe that's the two different. Well, the orange was one of the political parties. Maybe the greens are the other political party. But that's just bizarre. In Ireland, you can't fly the Irish flag on St. Patrick's Day. You can't even make this stuff up, right? Yeah, Walter, I'm sure that'd be a real popular St. Patrick's Day. I guess it's next to Derry, and they're next to each other. The ban is an effort to create cross-community appeal for the parade, which is being run by the council for the first time. Yeah, pretty bizarre. I linked Mule Team in on this article the other day. He never commented. He's kind of been off the social media lately, but I'm sure he would give us some choice words if he was to see this. So the other item associated, the St. Patrick's Psaltery, a red cross on a white background, is what's going to be promoted as an attempt, regardless of your community, to promote culture across Northern Ireland. Well, that would be an interesting parade to go to. Yeah, that'd be a mob scene. I'm not sure if it'll be a mob. Maybe just nobody will show up. Say, this is not even worth our time. But that was a very interesting article. And here's another one of culture being diminished that came out this week with the Olympics coming up. And it's not just related to the Olympics, because it's the Norwegian ski team has a sweater that they were designed that they've worn for the last year or so as part of the national ski team, and they use and going into the Olympics. And now it's created controversy because their sweater has old Nordic runes on it, old Viking language, Germanic language. So it has the tire on there, and looks like an arrow pointing up, the symbol of what's generally regarded as a symbol of war, depending on who you talk to. But they are getting grief for this being on there because it's considered a neo-Nazi symbol. And it's just like, you can't make this stuff up. The Vikings can't be Vikings. It's literally part of their old alphabet, and they're getting a hard time for using it just because some other people use it. It'd be like making a sweater of the U.S. and putting a G or D on it, but because Democrats or Republicans use it, people get offended because they use that letter in their symbols as well. Like, it hurts the head to think about, like the KKK. You can't use a K on your sweater because the KKK uses it. Like letters can't be redesignated. So there's a lot of article. They don't give have this one group picture up here, but if you've seen anything in Nordic Runes or anything, you've seen the arrow in particular. And if they looked at the other symbols of the other runes, they're used as well, but they didn't talk about those. Everybody just pointed out the one that I guess neo-Nazis have latched onto primarily, but it was funny. Lots of culture being degraded out there and run down. Hey, good morning, Jay Thornton. Thanks for joining us. We're running down the different signs of the apocalypse. The Irish can't fly the Irish flag, the Irish flag. The Norwegians can't use Viking symbols. Ban reading and writing. Walter Davis has hit it on the head. And that's probably the goal, because a dumbed down population is a controllable population, right? So that's a couple of things we weren't able to hit on this week that culturally are significant, or however you want to look at it. We did talk about the water in Cape Town this week. For those that weren't here on this story, they're experiencing a water shortage in Cape Town, which is on the coast. You would think they would invest it in some desalination over the years, but they haven't. So they may be going into water rationing. So you're looking at a 4 million people person city going to go into water rationing that could cause a lot of problems. You got 4 million people that are going to be trying to get water from 200 collection points, apparently. That's buried pretty deep into my links, but go check, do some research on that if you want to find more information if you didn't hear about it earlier. Here's another story I skipped over based on other things that were going on, so I wanted to hit this one. While I'm waiting for this to pull up, make sure you check out the links. I got some couple channels in the cards there in your top right corner under the eye icon. Different stuff, not necessarily news related, not necessarily prepping related, maybe a little bit of both, but you might find them useful or interesting, and they would always enjoy the support, I believe. So go check them out. So another case of why aren't people getting beat in the streets. So this is going on in London this week. Let me see, where can I get okay. There's a guy on YouTube apparently in London who was throwing water in people's faces, similar to what the acid attacks, which are, as it says, there's 2 real attacks recorded every day in the UK. And I'm like, why is this guy not getting his guts stomped out? This is in the Independent in the UK. It was linked on Drudge earlier in the week. I don't think it's there any longer. But I see this article is like, why would he not be beaten in the streets? I don't get it, how these things happen unchallenged, if you will. This video, is it going to pull up? It was running, then it stopped. There's a video of one of them actually occurring, I think. Maybe we'll have a link to his YouTube. Oh, here we go. Watch this fool. Watch this. This is just unreal. Why would he not get just pummeled? Oh, that makes you want to shoot somebody, doesn't it? So yeah, this is on YouTube too. One of YouTube's great policies, keeping offensive content off the net, as we've seen their new policies. So I don't know if he's getting charged with anything, but he's getting criticized. That's it. I don't know. It should be charged. It would be assault under most areas here in the United States, I believe, just for that, just for throwing water on somebody. But there's 400 assaults a year for corrosive substances in the UK. But yeah, he's lucky to be walking a little less alive the next day, I would think. Always be alert, be alive. Be ready to pummel somebody, I guess. Oh, it's disturbing. Others on YouTube said his actions constituted assault. Well, yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, he hasn't been, okay, I guess he hasn't been arrested. The Metropolitan Police told the paper that he could have been arrested for the prank. So I guess the media brought this to the police. Nobody's actually tracked him down to get arrested. So he's not been charged or arrested. The media found this and brought it up. Unreal. Unreal. And until he gets put in the hospital, I don't know if this is going to this is going to solve any. It's going to be solved. That's the only thing that's going to stop this guy from doing what he's doing. Unreal. So I wanted to hit that. Let's go out in the side chat here, see what you guys are hitting up. I'm done running my mouth about stuff I've found. So what you guys bringing up? M Long 5151 avoid large town and crowds. Well, that's always good policy. Um, wherever there's large groups of people, you can guarantee a quarter of them are mentally ill or off their rocker in some way. Oh, Galenas Vilcus brings up a good point. The KKK burns crosses, and Jesus was a man, banned crosses and crucifixes. Obviously racist and promote patriarchy. Oh, thanks, Galenas. Must be cold where you are. You got that cold-hearted thing going. So you tied right into the whole nature of the story there. Banning flags, banning ancient alphabets, everything else. Going back in the comments a little bit, Walter Davis, burning books are the new green fuel. I never thought about that. And we'll be able to use those libraries for homeless shelters, right? Once we burn all the books. JM just can't even comment. Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's pretty bizarre. I guess that's maybe on the acid attacks portion, or even the other things are pretty far out there. But things that go under the radar that are worth just taking note of: the cultural degradation, not only here, but it goes on around the world. As we've seen a lot of those things happen. What else is going on out there other than Glenis being cold? If everybody didn't check it out last night, Tactical Tony had a pretty good chat. I don't know how long they went. They went for about 4 hours before I dropped off, about 2,200 or so. I know Quasar was in there. I don't know if he took it to the end or not. Tony's chats can end up being 2 in the morning if you don't watch out. But there was lots of firearms talk in there. If you're interested in 1911s and some AR building techniques and price gauges and how to best affordably build your AR, that discussion was going on for a while. Then we got around to the discussion on the memo and the issue of the second person being, or not the second person, but the ammo dealer being charged in connection with the Las Vegas. We're still not sure what they charged him with because doesn't appear he may not committed any crime, but Quasar's still going on octane like coffee. I'm finishing up my coffee now, Quasar. But it was a good chat. Something you might want to, if you get a chance to just have something playing in the background to listen to while you're shoveling your driveway or something similar out there somewhere. It might be something to listen to while you're doing similar work activities this weekend. So really, that was my list of topics and everything. Yeah, we talked about that, Galenas, that the autopsy of the shooter wasn't released, defying the court order. Essentially, the coroner was doing. Uh, I would imagine at the behest of the FBI. I can't think of any other reason he would do that, or think he had or have the courage to do that, other than the FBI telling me he had to not release it. I would imagine there's a conflict there somewhere. Um, I didn't see anything in the local news around here that really popped. It's all feel good stories around here for the most part. There was a story out of Utah yesterday about public lands, uh, oil and gas leases coming up for bid, and they were going to be increasing, I guess. And they're in some of that disputed Bear Ears area and the other monument areas that were withdrawn earlier in the year. And they're going to be open for bidding. Uh, Biggest problem I have with that is the BLM should have no say over who gets what. If the state had the decision making of those things, it'd probably go a lot more conducive to what the locals want and locals see as their need. So, but as a recap to some of the things we've talked about here, snow coming up for everybody in the Midwest, dry out here out west, snow out east. What am I? I've still not woke up yet. So thanks everybody for coming out. Looks like chat rooms died down, but y'all are still lurking out there. It sounds like. So nobody has nothing for me, huh? Oh well, BLM should be disbanded. Agreed, Walter. No argument here on that one. Along with the FBI, CIA, BATFE, EPA, IRS. How long can we make that list, right? Close out here with this final article. I saw this yesterday. It was still on Drudge now. Labeling videos that are posted by state-funded media, which includes PBS. But most people don't know that PBS is state-run. So they're putting them in that category like any other shoot. They should put anything by CNN as state-funded media too, but it's more collusion than funding, I guess. But it's just funny. PBS put up a big stink about it because now they're getting lumped in with basically the North Korean news service or anybody else like that. So there's going to be a label added to the video from state-funded media outlets. Notice will appear under the videos for any outlets that receive some level of government or public funding. It will also include a link to the Wikipedia article. Oh my goodness, Wikipedia. Can't you get a better article than Wikipedia? Seriously? YouTube, that's your best source of you can do. In an example, the YouTube blog, a video from Radio Free Asia, which is funded by the U.S. agency, the Broadcasting Board of Governors, includes a note with an information symbol under the video, but right above the title. RFA is funded in whole or in part by the American government. We fund all kinds of craziness out there. That's really going to wake people up. They start seeing like RT and everything else, all these things that are funded by governments. And it includes the Russian funded network RT. There you go. There it is right there. Oh man, people are going to start wondering. Hopefully, people start wondering where all their news is coming from if this works out the way it should. Could YouTube possibly do something good? We shall see. Pretty much all British news services are government partially funded. Everything out of Europe is government controlled at some level, much more than ours. Okay, PBS claims they receive a small percentage of its funding from the federal government. Can somebody fact check that? Because I'm pretty sure PBS's funding is almost like half government funding. It's not a small percentage, I don't believe, or it used to be. Maybe that's kind of flipped. Maybe they've got more private donations of late, but they have a large percentage of government funding previously, I believe. And we need to fact check that small percentage they claim. RT, which has 2.2 million subscribers on YouTube. Here they go on a hit piece on RT, which is part of the concern over Russia's meddling in American politics, yada yada. A DOJ investigation, forced to register as a foreign agent. They're lumping RT into the Russian attempt to influence the 2016 election. The U.S. government funds outlets like Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and Current Time Television as coming from a foreign agent. Oh, this is Russia's restrictions. Russia's new restrictions might include labeling content from American government-funded outlets, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, and Current Time Television. Okay. That's pretty good stuff. That's humorous. People don't want to be labeled as government outlets, and they most clearly are. Walter Davis says PBS is sexist, ban them too. I thought everybody was just asexual. It's everybody's a X or a Y, or they just have gender fluid, right? On Sesame Street, Walter Davis. Isn't that the way they roll over there? You just do whatever who identifies you want. So there was the train wreck this week with the congressional delegation on it. That's kind of fallen off the headlines as that investigation continues, I'm sure. I don't know if we'll ever hear anything more of that unless somebody is really digging deep. Yeah, Walter Davis, you'd think Al Jazeera would be that's funded by the Saudi or Egyptian government, I believe. Probably the Saudis. Pretty much everything over there is state run. I don't think there's anything in the Middle East there might be an Israeli paper or two, but just about everything in the Middle East is funded either by the local government or by the U.S. We fund half their media too, but I don't know if they're on YouTube. Are they on? Well, Al Jazeera's on YouTube, but so don't get your news there. Come here, HDP. We're not government funded. Is the NWO a government? Government like shadows governments. Does that count? I don't know. I want to know what's funded by the Soros state. That's a good one, Galinas. Yeah. Who does Soros fund and how does he fund it? That'd be a good little disclaimer to have up next to things. The tangled web we weave. Indeed. They have nothing positive to say about America. You talking about Al Jazeera, Walter? I'm assuming. I guess positive is subjective. Our RT did some good reporting back there in like the 2012 election time frame, and I haven't paid attention to them probably since 2015 or so. But they used to have some pretty good stuff challenging the Obama regime and whatnot. Spider webs burn fast. I'm not sure what that's referring to, but I've never tried to burn a spider web, but I'll take your word for it. The Pope's getting grief for bowing in Beijing in China, I guess, because I guess the Pope's not supposed to bow to anybody, kind of like the president, but Pope's got a different mission. But we won't talk about that too much. But he's getting grief. Oh, they actually have this Cape Town article is still up on Drudge. Cape Town's water crisis. It links to a Yahoo article here. It was previously on New York Times. So if you want to continue to look at that Cape Town situation, and a link here to the drought in SoCal as well. Hey, M. Long, have a good day. We'll see you later. Right. Qatar is exactly that, Galenas Vilcas. They'll let Europeans booze it up and do what they want on the beaches, but Qatar is a pretty interesting country. The UAE. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it up. We'll call it a day on that. Hope you have a good weekend. Hopefully, we'll give you something to ruminate on to if something piqued your interest or something you hadn't heard of through the week, news-wise or otherwise. Bring your best stories Monday morning. We'll be back on 6:30, 06:30 our time, Nevada time. Can't call it Pacific time. We don't touch the Pacific Ocean. Why would I call it Pacific time? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it's 06:30 our time. Look forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for coming out and viewing today. Spread the word, spread the message, whatever you get out of it. I hope you go out and have a great weekend. Live free.